Your net worth will always rise or fall according to your self-worth. Money doesn't change you, it amplifies you. It exposes how you think, what you value, and where you limit yourself. Money magnifies your intentions. It's a mirror, not a measure of your worth. You teach people how to treat your value by how you price your time and attention. Do you give away your time for free? Then you don't value your time. You can't build wealth if you're emotionally afraid of uncertainty. That's why upgrading your identity isn't just about making more, it's about becoming more. Money is a reflection of the problem you solve. Price filters the market for you. It defines your lane. If you want to be an abundant thinker, you've got to raise your prices. Wealth is not about accumulation, it's about alignment. Your results are going to grow according to how you grow in your inner world, your inner game. All right, welcome back to the Daily Mastermind. George Wright III with your daily dose of inspiration, motivation, and education. And today we're diving into one of the most misunderstood aspects of entrepreneurship. It's a topic that I have gotten a lot of behind-the-scenes mentoring on over the years with the different people I've been able to work with, and it's all about your wealth identity. Now, you've noticed probably by now that I'm really honing in on identity this week, and I'm doing this on purpose. This is because I think that most of the struggles entrepreneurs have are driven by their identity and not by all the funnels and marketing and hacks and things that they want to create. And so this week I'm really pushing this because I want you to become aware of it. No matter how much strategy, skill, or success you have, your financial outcomes, your wealth, it'll always match your self-identity. Your business revenue, your investments, your profits, they will all reflect the story that you believe about money, your value, and your worthiness for money. And I know that sounds a little strange, but here's the truth. Your net worth will always rise or fall according to your self-worth. Money doesn't change you, it amplifies you. It exposes how you think, what you value, and where you limit yourself. T. Harv Eker, who I traveled the world with when I was working with him, he calls this your money blueprint. He used to start all of his events by saying, I could predict your financial future in 5 minutes, because he knew that your identity would determine your net worth and your wealth. It's like a thermostat. You could go into a room and you could turn that, that temperature down, but the temperature is always going to go back to the level of your thermostat. So if your money thermostat is set low, then it doesn't matter. You can go out and earn and you can get a bunch of great success, but it's always going to come back down to the level of your identity. So I've worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs, thousands of entrepreneurs, but hundreds of mentors. And these patterns that are out there that I see over and over with all the entrepreneurs that we've worked with, they hit a breakthrough, they double their income, they land a huge client, they scale their team, and then almost mysteriously, they lose their momentum again and they slip back. Not because the market shifted, but because their internal thermostat snapped them back to what felt normal. Their identity around money hadn't caught up to their actual opportunity they have. Now, I've lived this myself. For years, I equated struggle with success, and I thought hard work was the only honest way to wealth. And I've had many times that I've created huge financial success only to lose it. But it all comes back to your unconscious game. And I would find new fires to put out in my business. I would find new opportunities, but I was addicted to the effort. What changed everything for me was realizing that money is just simply energy. It flows where it's respected and not where it's chased. When you chase money, it's because your identity is having you chase it. Let's talk about this idea. Money is energy and money is neutral. It's not emotional or moral. It simply reflects how you use it. If you fear money, you're going to repel it. If you worship money, you're going to misuse it. But if you steward it, you're going to multiply it. And these are lessons that I've learned from working with mentors over the years. Money magnifies your intentions. It's a mirror, not a measure of your worth. Gratitude is the generator of abundance. And the more you acknowledge what you already have, the more control and capability you have of getting more. And it's just a concept that's really hard for a lot of entrepreneurs because we grow up chasing success. And wealth is created by expanding capacity, not just chasing it. And it's that quote from Jim Rohn that I learned a while back, is that success is not to be pursued, it's to be attracted by the person you become. Your identity is going to create your worth, your net worth. And let's look at, for example, some mistakes that a lot of entrepreneurs make that really block their ability to have money, right? These are things that owners and entrepreneurs and founders, I feel like, make over and over again. Maybe you see these in your life. The first is overgiving and undervaluing. Overgiving and undervaluing. Let's assume you're someone who overdelivers, but you undercharge. You disguise people pleasing with your generosity. You mistake it for generosity. You believe being affordable makes you noble in some way, but it really exhausts you. And you teach people how to treat your value by how you price your time and attention. Do you give away your time for free? Then you don't value your time. So you can see what I mean here. One of the biggest traps or blocks to money is when you overgive and undervalue yourself. Another big problem that entrepreneurs and founders have is that they have this attachment to hustle. You think income must be directly linked to your hustle or your suffering or your grinding. If you're not grinding, you feel guilty. You're uncomfortable with sitting back and relaxing. So you unconsciously create chaos. You delay rest, you burn out, and then you repeat the process. You've learned to earn through pain instead of from precision and peace of mind. And this attachment to hustle is a big problem. The other problem that I've noticed over time working with so many entrepreneurs is this idea of scarcity and control. And this is one that I've had struggles with in my life. You hoard cash or you delay your investment because you want to play it safe. You save out of fear rather than allocate from wisdom. You mistake your control of your money for stability, but stagnation isn't safety. It's just a slow decline of your business. So scarcity and control of cash, like you're going to lose it, is a real big problem. Each of these blocks come from your identity. They're deep-rooted fears, fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of change. You can't build wealth if you're emotionally afraid of uncertainty. That's why upgrading your identity isn't just about making more, it's about becoming more. I hope that's something you're starting to get the pattern of as we talk through this week. So how do we start shifting your wealth identity? Not just your internal confidence, but your wealth identity. Let's go through the same process that I mentioned the last couple of days with some refinements. You got to be aware. Write down what it is you believe about money. What did you hear your parents say? Money doesn't grow on trees. People like us don't get rich. Rich people are selfish. What are those beliefs that you have about money that have maybe shaped your narrative of money and your identity of money? These sentences are probably running in your subconscious mind. Write those down. Be aware of how you view money. And then stop asking, how do I make more money? And start asking, how do I create more value? You've got to redefine your wealth and money with value, not effort. Money is a reflection of the problem you solve. It's kind of like I've mentioned before, T. Harv Eker talks about most people focus on the fruits of the tree rather than the roots. The roots, your deep internal beliefs, are what create the fruits. You've got to feed the roots. You've got to grow internally. Decide that, for example, your prices are based on what you create as a value, not your time. Stop trading your time for dollars. Start trading your time for the value you create. And then once you do that, you're aware of things and you redefine what is value, expand your capacity. Give intentionally, invest consistently, delegate strategically. Those practices will teach your nervous system that money is abundant and renewable. You can't grow wealth while keeping tight your opportunities. You've got to expand wealth by giving it motion. Money likes motion. You've heard that before. So you've got to expand your capacity by doing that. And then you've got to look at your language again. Like I said, delete phrases like, I can't afford it. When you find yourself saying that, you've got to replace that with, how can I create the resources that I need? It's not about, I think a lot of times we don't realize we're operating from a place of scarcity. And when you see or hear yourself saying things like that, you've got to redefine that and anchor yourself in abundant words, feelings, and strength that you're going to grow and you're going to make things happen. Now, I think the best way to do this is really to just set consistent rituals, daily rituals in your life, ways that you can expand your knowledge of money. And this takes spending time thinking about it and reframing your language. And look, I know what a lot of people are thinking out there. When you try to expand your value and your wealth. They'll say things like, I lose clients if I raise my prices. Guess what? Reframe that. Maybe you're going to lose the wrong clients. Price filters the market for you. It defines your lane. If you want to be an abundant thinker, you've got to raise your prices. That's one of the biggest things that I think a lot of big entrepreneurs and mentors that I've worked with have given as advice. Also, here's another problem. You might say things like, I'm not good with money. You don't need perfection. You need proactive participation. Track it. Track your money. Most people are not tracking their money, and that's the reason they're not good with money. Don't say things like, I don't trust the market. Be abundant. Use your authority, your personal brand, your consistency, clarity around the market, and your belief in yourself to drive that. Just remember, wealth is not about accumulation. It's about alignment. This is lessons that I've heard from many mentors. It's about alignment, not about accumulation. When your mind and your identity aligns with abundance and it aligns with your belief that you can create, it's going to happen for you. So here's a question for you to think about. What money belief has served you in the past but limits you now? Maybe it was, I work hard to earn. For the longest time, when I worked hard, I earned a lot. But maybe now it's time to grow outside that. And it's time to step back to attract. Or maybe you've got a belief that playing it safe keeps me secure. Identify whatever that belief is that served you, that actually has worked for you to this point. Be glad you had it, but replace it with a new abundant thinking. If you want to build generational wealth, you've got to start with your identity and you've got to grow. You got to turn that financial thermostat up. When you expand your capacity to receive, to give, and to lead with stewardship, money becomes a mirror that reflects your expansion. It doesn't limit you. It's not a limitation. And if you want to measure how your inner wealth identity aligns with your outer authority, this is why I always talk about the authority scorecard, guys. I'm throwing that out there because I think a lot of times we don't build our personal brand because of our lack of identity. And your authority is something that you can use if you're so caught up in your business, for example. Use your personal authority and grow it in order to bring your other areas of your identity along, like your wealth identity and your self-confidence and things like that. Remember, wealth doesn't begin with what you earn. Wealth is not a reflection of who you are. It's only a reflection of your identity, and it begins with what identity are you creating for yourself. Money will always reflect your mindset. So this is why I'm such a big advocate of personal development and growth. But if you want to elevate your wealth, you've got to elevate your identity. And this is why I'm so consistent with this message this week. Whether it's your business, your finances, your money, your body. I'll talk a little bit about your physical identity later in the week, but your results are going to grow according to how you grow in your inner world, your inner game. So I hope this is just something that's gotten you a new direction to think about when it comes to your wealth identity. And I'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on the topic? How have you struggled? How have you gotten over it? How have you gone to the next level with your wealth? And hit me up on the Daily Mastermind. I look forward to talking with you. Once again, my name is George Wright III. This has been the Daily Mastermind. Have a great day.